Okay, so we just wrapped up talking about patchiness in the open ocean, and now we get to talk about some of the migrations that occur in the ocean. Um, so we get some plankton migrations actually during the evening and during the night. So a lot of zooplankton actually live fairly deep in the water during the day, and then at night they actually migrate up to the surface in order to feed. And the reason they do that is because there's phytoplankton in the surface waters, and they eat those phytoplankton. But if they're up there during the day feeding on the phytoplankton, they're more visible to predators and more likely to be eaten. So what they do is they hide out deep in the water during the day, and then at night they come up and feed on the phytoplankton. So it helps to reduce predation of them by hiding, basically. And we'll talk more about this when we talk about the deep ocean. It's called the fish and the plankton and stuff that live in this region are actually form what we call the deep scattering layer, and that'll come more into play when we talk about the deep ocean. So stay tuned for more information on that. Alright, so most of the organisms that are classified as megaplankton in the ocean are animals. And among these animals, the most prominent types are cnidarians, mollusks, and salps. So the cnidarian zooplankton that we find are mostly jellyfish, but also things like comb jellies and other stuff like that. And the largest of these guys are obviously the jellyfish. So you can have like the lion's mane jelly that can have tentacles that are 99 feet long. So they can be very, very large megaplankton. Here's just an example of a type of cnidarian zooplankton, jellyfish, and another type of jellyfish. Okay, so lots of different types of jellyfish will be megaplankton. The molluscan zooplankton, you'll have several different types of mollusks that will be zooplankton. The first type are called pteropods. Those are also called sea butterflies, and basically their foot is modified to form two large wing-like projections, and they will either have a greatly reduced shell or they will have an absent shell. So if they have a greatly reduced shell, they're going to be called thecosome pteropods, and an absent shell will be called gymnosome pteropods. And we actually get what we call pteropod ooze at the bottom of the ocean. That's basically sediment formed from the shells of dead thecosome pteropods. And so there's so many of them that lived that and then died that all of their shells sank to the bottom, and we actually have like layers of their shells on the bottom of the ocean, which is kind of crazy to think about. So we have sea butterflies, and I'll show you a picture on the next slide what those look like. And then we also have purple sea snails, and purple sea snails are really funny actually, and they're purple, and they basically float upside down at the top of the water. So they create these little bubble rafts out of bubbles and mucus, and they attach them to their foot, and then they float upside down attached to this little bubble raft. It's kind of cute. And then nudibranchs are shellless gastropods, and they will swim around and they will eat lots of different types of cnidarians. There's particularly one type of nudibranch that will actually eat the Portuguese man of war, and it's been known to like eat all of the tentacles of the Portuguese man of war and then attach its eggs to the float of the Portuguese man of war. So it kind of has a snack and then uses the float of the Portuguese man of war as its place to lay its eggs. And what's crazy about these nudibranchs is they can actually keep the stinging cells of the cnidarians for themselves. So they'll hold on to them and prevent them from firing and killing them, and instead stick them into their body walls and use them as their defense mechanism against other types of creatures. So this is what a sea butterfly looks like. This top part, okay, is going to be the foot, so it's got two wing-like projections, okay, and then its shell would be down here, okay, attached to this little part of the sea butterfly. this is a purple sea snail. So you can see its purple shell, and then this part right here, those are the bubbles that it forms. And those little bubbles help to keep it afloat in the open ocean. So it's kind of weird that you'd find a snail in the middle of the ocean, but you do. Pretty cool. Okay, other types of megaplankton that you will find. You will actually find urochordates. So if you remember back to the beginning of this semester, I know, a long time ago, we talked about urochordates. Those are things like tunicates or sea squirts. So they have all of the characteristics of being a chordate at some point of their lives. So if you remember the characteristics of a chordate, those would be a postanal tail, a notochord, a dorsal hollow nerve cord, and then pharyngeal pouches or gill slits. So these guys have all of those characteristics. Salps are the picture that you see in the upper right hand corner, and they have barrel-shaped bodies that are open at both ends. Okay? And some of them will actually produce and maintain a mucus net inside of their oral openings to filter water that is pumped through their bodies. And they are really, really important because they're able to eat plankton that are smaller in size that other things may not be able to eat. So like bacteria, they're really important in eating a lot of the bacteria that lives in the ocean. And then they get eaten by other things and the energy gets passed on up the food chain. Pyrosomes are close relatives of the salps that produce colonies that can be hundreds of individuals long and can be so long that they can be up to 14 meters long attached, which is absolutely crazy. That's like 45 feet basically. Pretty crazy. Larvaceans are also urochordates, and they secrete these mucus structures that are called houses, and they draw water through those houses when they move their tail, basically. So they create a little water current with their tail and draw water through the mucus house and then trap plankton inside of that little mucus house. Those houses that they create do not have an opening to get rid of feces, so the larvaceans must actually abandon their houses several times a day and grow a new one in order to keep feeding, because as they keep filtering the water through, they get plankton, but they're also building up waste, and so eventually they can't eat anymore because it's just too clogged with waste. They get rid of it and form a new little mucus house. They're important because those mucus houses actually end up as marine snow. So you get all sorts of bacteria and phytoplankton that are in there, and then it gets heavy and sinks to the bottom and actually becomes an important food source for the deep sea. So here's some pictures. The pyrosome is on the upper left and the larvation is on the bottom right. You can see the little tail of the larvation that is beats in order to create the current for them to feed. For salps, they sometimes have these shrimp that will actually eat out all of their internal organs, and then they'll save the outer layer of the salp's body, and then they'll live inside of there, which is kind of funny. So this picture shows you this little shrimp that is living inside a salp's body, and it'll actually lay its eggs in there if it's a female, and it'll raise its eggs and hatch their eggs inside the salp's body. So it's a form of protection for it. Okay, so those are all the types of megaplankton, the larger plankton that you'll find. We also have lots of different types of nekton, so things that can swim against the current. The invertebrates that you will find as nekton in the open ocean are mostly squid. So squid reign supreme in the open ocean. They have really, really keen eyesight and they're intelligent, and so they are a formidable predator for a lot of different creatures that live in the open ocean. Then you get lots of different types of fish. So the billfish that you will find, those are the species that have an elongated upper jaw, like the marlin or the sailfish or the swordfish. Okay, so they're called billfish, and that elongated upper jaw is called a bill. And they hunt in the open ocean by swimming through schools of fish and swinging their bill back and forth, and when they hit the fish with their bill, it stuns them, and then they come around and swallow their prey. What's interesting is that swordfish will actually attack almost anything. without any sort of provocation whatsoever. And so we've actually found the bills of swordfish, the broken bills of swordfish, in like wooden ships. So they like attacked the wooden ship and then they broke their bill off inside of the ship. Weird, right? And sometimes the bill has even like penetrated through two boards of like oak. So it's not like they were just kind of like, oh, I'm just gonna like tap this ship. Nope, they were like ramming it like really hard. So pretty crazy. So stay away from swordfish apparently. They've also found like whales and stuff that have had broken bills embedded in them from swordfish. So, yep, pretty aggressive. Stay away. Tuna, we have lots and lots of tuna that you will find in the open ocean. They are made for the open ocean. They swim a lot, and they have to swim constantly because they don't have a swim bladder. So they need to have lots and lots of energy to be able to swim. The bluefin tuna is the largest and can reach up to 13 feet. And the yellowfin tuna is the second largest and will reach up to like 7 feet or more. So tuna can get huge. Bluefin tuna in particular. The ocean sunfish is also found in the open ocean, and the ocean sunfish is also called the mola mola. And they got the name the sunfish because they were found to be like laying on the top of the surface of the water in the sun. So they called them sunfish. They're kind of funny looking. They can get to more like longer than 10 feet and weigh more than 1 ton, which is absolutely insane. The reason why they're so heavy is they actually have a layer of cartilage that is 2 to 4 inches thick just below the surface of their skin. So it makes them heavy creatures, which is good for them because that cartilage provides protection, but it also attracts a lot of different parasites, so they've got lots and lots of parasites on them. When we've looked into their stomachs of the sunfish, we've actually found that they eat animals that are in deeper water. So they actually dive down really, really deep, feed, and then they come up to the surface to warm up because it's pretty cold down there. So they're laying in the sun to warm up, so it makes sense. Sharks, you will also find sharks and manta rays in the open ocean. The types of sharks that you'll find in the open ocean are very streamlined, and they're very, very well adapted to that pelagic life cycle. And manta rays can get huge, right? They can be like 20 feet from the tip of one fin to the other, which is kind of crazy. And they also feed on plankton. Here's some pictures of the different types of tuna. So lots of different types of tuna. Just a little information on the bluefin tuna. Can get as long as 13 feet. We've tagged some of them and found that they actually migrate from North America to Europe and back several times a year, which is quite the trek. And they can swim as fast as 43 miles an hour, which is really, really fast for swimming in the ocean. And the largest tuna that was ever recorded was an Atlantic bluefin caught off the coast of Nova Scotia that weighed 1,496 pounds. So it was absolutely massive. Here's a picture of a bluefin tuna right here. Okay, kind of give you a size comparison between like an average size bluefin tuna, which is about 6 feet, and a human being, 6-foot man. This picture shows you a picture of a sunfish. A lot of times at the Monterey Bay Aquarium, they actually have sunfish that you can go and see, and it's surprising just how huge these things are. Makes sense, they're the heaviest fish in the sea. Okay, the types of reptiles that you'll find in the open ocean is the yellow-bellied sea snake. These guys give live birth. They never ever go back to land, so they are out in the open ocean for their entire life. The leatherback sea turtle is also found in the open ocean, and it eats a lot of the gelatinous zooplankton like jellyfish and stuff like that. And the leatherback sea turtle is actually considered to be an endothermic animal, which is kind of crazy because they can maintain their own body temperature, which means that they can actually stay in colder water than other creatures can, like other reptiles.